Welcome in, Loons fans, to another edition of the Matchday Preview. Jonathan Harrison here alongside my usual co-host, Manny Lagos. Manny, how are we doing this morning?
We're doing well. Thank you very much. Lovely weather this week. Finally, we have summer solstice, and it's happened. It's summertime.
Absolutely. And the rain is finally broken, it seems, for a little bit. So hopefully that stays for a little while and let the floods recede a little bit. But joined by special guest this week, Zarek Valentin, Loons defender. Zarek, how you doing today?
Thanks for having me. I'm honored.
Yeah, this should be fun.
Joining this Batman and Robin-esque crew.
I have no words for that one, Zarek, but thank you.
As a throwback, Christian, Miguel.
Yes,
Figured I'd give that one.
Yeah.
I like it. We're recording a little bit earlier than we normally do with a peek behind the curtain. Manny, you're off to San Jose for a special celebration this weekend.
Yeah, similarly to Minnesota in 2 years, the Earthquakes were founded in 1974. So they are celebrating their 50 years of pro soccer, although I don't think it was continuous, but it is 50 years of pro soccer. We've got that in 2026 here in Minnesota, but it's been kind of a fun couple of years. I went out there for our 01 championship and 03 championship. And then they're flying us out for this one too. It'll be a fun one. They got some good events. They do a good job with these. And unfortunately, it's been a weird week with Lucci being let go, who I know really well. He's a great guy, and so that was tough to hear. But I'm sure they'll still put on a good event. Excited to see a lot of people that I played with out there that I became friends with. Both my boys were born when I was playing in San Jose, so that's kind of a cool part of the trip as well.
Awesome. That should be super fun and should be a fun time as well. We've got plenty to talk about. There's been so much soccer over the past couple weeks with the Euros, Copa America, MLS action still going strong. So let's jump right into this. Let's jump into the kind of wider discussion of soccer. MLS, Euros, Copa America, whichever one you guys want to take. Zarek, I'll start with you. What's been the 1 or 2 or 3 goals that have stuck out to you the most from these tournaments over the past couple days?
Ooh, that's a spicy question to start off with. I think for me, the 2 that stick out are just the late winners. There's been, I know own goal, I think, is leading the Euros in terms of goals being scored. I think the 2 that stick out for me, one is the Italy goal, 98, I believe.
Yep.
And then the other one is Hungary, scored in, I believe, the 100th minute. So for me, it was I'll take the upset. So I'll take the Hungarian goal if I have to pick one over the other. To see the elation of the fans and the raw emotion, especially that late. We felt something similar when Tanny scored late. Bongi's had a few late ones this year, but a late winner, is really hard to beat. So for me, that one sticks out.
Manny?
Jonathan, you got to what was the question exactly, so I make sure I can get, kind of a good answer for you.
Your favorite goals from the Euros, Copa America, MLS that we've seen over the past week or so?
Oh, wow. That's, to Zarek's point, like you're throwing 3 different things and 3 different brains. Turkey
any one of those
one. Romania had a great one. I loved, I think I'm going to stay in the Euros right now. I guess own goal would be the star of the tournament. My other star, which isn't a goal, is the Tintin uniforms for Belgium, even though they're playing horribly. Those are awesome uniforms. If you're a fan of Tintin. I think a lot of the German goals are really good. I don't have one right now. That's a really good. I'm not usually stumped, and right now I'm stumped.
I'm a big fan, as you said, Zarek, of that Italy goal. I've always liked watching Italy play and just I know it's heartbreaking for Croatia because they put in a heck of an effort and held on, it seemed, until the very last second. And that last goal kick was incredible. And just the moment and what it meant for both sides. It was just a monumental goal. I think.
Yeah, you know what? That goal had elements of Algeria. You're right.
Yeah.
It reminded me of Algeria, which is one of the most amazing moments watching as a fan.
It really did. Yeah, that's a great point. Just the last minute break and essentially the last kick of the game, getting the tying goal and moving on into the tournament. What have we thought about these tournaments? We'll start off with the Euros. I think this has been one of the most incredible tournaments I've ever seen. Just the late goals, the own goals, just the drama. As whenever you think you've seen all the drama, that you can handle in one tournament, it steps it up a notch. There's another layer of drama just added on. And I think this has been one of the craziest and one of the most chaos-filled tournaments that I've ever seen, Manny.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it must be us doing this podcast a little early because I'm just waking up now. I've got to bring up that Modric goal because I don't know if you guys have seen a Twitter feed of it, but it has just him from the moment he misses his PK
the minute
until he scores. And literally within that 30 to 35 seconds, he has like a millisecond of just, you see, kid, and he's still running while he does it, but his face is just for literally a normal human being would be like, 15 seconds of pissed off faceness and like not seeing the play. A high level pro soccer player would be like at least a second or two of just like emotion and like frustration. Literally a millisecond, kept moving. You could see this like just so focused, iconic player stay with it to score that goal. I think it was just a great example, and I wanted to bring it up to the group just because it's rare that you see something different where you see somebody who is so good, but you never really realize like all the elements why they're so good. And then you see something like that. So that was one of my favorite moments of the tournament. I do have a little gripe. I'm not a fan of these third place teams going through.
Okay.
Portugal did it in 2016 and they didn't even win a game in the group stage. I'm enjoying the Copa America more where it's going to be just two teams through. I think the third, you don't have to win a game in your group to get through, kind of bugs me a little bit. So unless it's everybody tied, ties everybody.
France hasn't even scored a goal in open play and they went through.
Yeah, and they're the best team in the world, arguably.
Yeah, so I'm in the same boat as you as the third place team. It's we were kind of chatting about it yesterday. These Euro games look like a ballet at times, and these Copa America games look like a street fight. In terms of the fouls and if you watch the Canada game, obviously we're all watching the Canada game very closely. The red card in that game is tough, and there's a few of these games where it's Chile against Argentina and Messi's getting hacked around the field, and these games are vicious. And not to say the European ones aren't hard fought, but I think that there's a different level when it comes to some of these CONCACAF teams and South American teams and the scrappiness involved in those games. And it's a different style of game, but when there's 50 fouls, 60 fouls in a match, that's almost one every 2 out of 3 minutes. So for me, that's really stood out. But even when the Euros, Manny was bringing up the matches themselves, Georgia beating Portugal, and these upsets and are great to watch. So also, listen, we're blessed that we have a lot of these games going on where we can pretty much watch soccer pretty much the entire day. So we're enjoying it.
All right, so the knockout stage is set for the Euros. I assume you guys know everybody who's moved on in the knockout stage. So let's start off with you, Zarek. Your favorites to win it after everything you've seen through the group stage. The knockout stage is set. Who's your favorite to win it?
That's tough because, as Manny alluded to, these powerhouses are really underachieving. You look at England, France. Some of these teams are not playing as well as they maybe could have. But then I think it speaks volumes to a team like Spain. Spain's been doing fantastic in the way in which they're doing it as well. So for me, I've enjoyed watching them play, and they're also doing so with some younger players and some more experienced players, right? You have Morata up top, and then the Barcelona boys running around with an influx of energy. So for me, it's hard to look past Spain at this moment, even though there's a lot of very talented teams.
Manny?
Yeah, I think Spain and Germany have looked the most balanced, the most kind of depth and ability to probably handle a lot of adversity. I think Spain has, in general, they do this. So I think it's a great one for people to watch, and that they've gone from this ticky-tack to a much more direct attack. This guy Nico Williams is crazy fast and has kind of, I think, been one of the stars of the tournament. I don't think I count out France or Italy though.
Yeah.
France can build in the tournament. They probably on paper have the best roster in the world, and I think Italy won last time. B, they do well in these tournaments when they can galvanize as a group. Oh my gosh, they are a tournament style team for sure.
Absolutely. And for me, it's got to be between Germany and Italy. As you said, Germany just have been playing so well for me in this tournament. I've liked what they've put out in every one of those games, and it just feels like they're a very dangerous team. And having the home fans is always going to help you as well. But Italy, they're on the quote unquote easier side of the bracket, but as you said, Manny, they're very much a tournament focused team. So then let's move on to the Copa America. From what you've seen so far, plenty of interesting results. I think the most interesting was Costa Rica getting a draw with Brazil. I think that took a lot of people by surprise a little bit. I know, Manny, you probably weren't surprised based off comments you had a couple weeks ago when we were talking about the U.S. Brazil result. So what do we thought? Who do we think after the first, round of games, and plus who's the favorite in Copa America, Manny?
Z, you want me to go first, or you want to start this off?
I want to hear your perspective on this one.
All right. Well, first of all, guys, you can see what I'm wearing today. So happy game day. Almost USA for sure. Because, this will hopefully, knock on wood, get us through. It would be, in my view, not catastrophic. We're really disappointed if we don't beat Panama today, just because I expect us to kind of galvanize after the Bolivia game. Which I guess we're talking about the US right now, but the Bolivia game was a great performance. I thought Bolivia was not the level that I was expecting, but we also made them look that way. So long story short, I've got in order, probably top 5 right now would be Argentina, Colombia, Uruguay, USA, Brazil are my top 5 in that order. So I'll just continue with that being the likeliness of that group to win in that way. So, but I'll tell you what, I think the USA's got a shot, no doubt about it. When I've seen these games and I saw how we played, these games are wild. They're physical. We've got talent. We've got some hunger and fight in us now, it looks like. So, yeah, I'm really excited to see how this goes, knock on wood, and we progress to the next round and make a run.
I'm just going to copy exactly what Manny said. I think he has a great perspective. And the one thing the U.S., if they can match the fight and be a little bit pragmatic in terms of the build out at times and not overplay and put themselves in tough positions, I think they can be up there with the big boys. And it's just a matter of how the brackets shake out. I have to double check that. But, Venezuela beat Mexico last night, historic result for them. But yeah, I think Manny hit it, spot on with the top teams. I think the U.S. is in a good spot, and they seem to have the mojo flowing a bit, and everyone seems a little bit more relaxed after, I would say, a disappointing performance against Colombia, and then coming back and having a stronger one against Brazil, and then continuing that momentum. And it's tournament football, so anything can happen. But again, I'll piggyback off Manny and agree with his assessment of that. I think it's pretty spot on.
Well, Z, I'll piggyback after you, Jonathan, before we go to your picks, and just remind you, like that Chile Argentina game, you talked about the physicality. It was unbelievable. The Paraguay Chile game was insane as well. Like, I look now at the US and something like Weston McKennie and how we're going to need his moxie. We're going to need his kind of just, old school Clint Dempson. Let's get after it at some point in this tournament. And so these teams have so much guile, so much like kind of just fight and belief. And I've been really impressed too with the ebb and flow of the games in terms of, again, I think last night was a good example where you're like, oh, Venezuela's going to get worked. Mexico's all over them. And then we remind ourselves it's probably Mexico's worst team in 40, 50 years. But it's also Venezuela staying just fighting and believing for the whole 90 minutes to get the result. So apologize, Jonathan. Big day. I'm excited. That's why I got the U.S. jersey on.
No, absolutely. It is a big day. U.S. Panama tonight. I can't wait for it because I was left very encouraged after that first performance against Bolivia. I think there was a lot to build off of, and it excited me for the rest of the tournament. And I think they, as you said, Manny, I think they have a chance of going pretty far and impressing and kind of shocking a lot of people in this tournament. For me, the favorites down to Argentina and Colombia. I've loved what I've been able to see from both of those teams so far. Colombia, especially, in their one game, they were really impressive. Argentina being able to fight through and battle through a very physical, tough Chile team. That was a fun match to watch, and to see Chile take it to Argentina a couple times late in that match, where you didn't expect someone to be able to take it to one of the best teams, the reigning World Cup champs, for a handful of minutes. And they really went toe to toe with Argentina, and just that late goal for Argentina kind of put them over the top. But that was a very fun match. For me, I think it's down to Argentina and Colombia right now. And I may change that after we see the rest of the second round of games. But for now, right now, what I've seen, it's between Uruguay and Colombia in that tournament. Other results in MLS, a busy weekend this
Hey,
last
Jonathan,
weekend.
sorry, I just had to give one more shout out because we were talking about that. Tani's almost goal.
Oh
So
yeah,
fun to watch. So fun to see him get on the field. So fun to see him be part of a historic win. I didn't think that their team played that well in the day, but getting the red card and staying in there. And then I love how Tani stole the ball and had to create a kind of a half breakaway. Great save by Galese. It was MLS versus MLS at that point. I don't know. I thought maybe he could have faked it and gone around him, but Galese did a good job of kind of moving and just making Tani go for that near post.
Yeah, listen, with Tanny's scoring record right now, he can. I'll let him dictate that. It's awesome to see for me, knowing him last year, knowing him going on loan, and his mindset and his humbleness and the way he's gone about it has been awesome. And it's fantastic to see someone at a young age get it. And I don't, you don't always throw that term around, but in terms of work rate, humbleness, being able to again go on loan, which is not always an easy thing, have the right mindset, bang in a bajillion goals, come back and just put in the work and get a goal and, get a goal early in the season and then continue to have that mindset and not necessarily earn a starting spot. And then constantly come into games, have a great mindset, train well, and then reap the rewards. It's great for me to see. And, again, selfishly as a teammate, we'd love to see him back soon, but, we wish him all the success with the team and him and Dane going through in Copa. So we'll see. But it's just as a teammate, it's awesome to see someone, reap the benefits of all their hard work. And I know that it's not necessarily going to change him, and he's going to come back and be just as hungry to regain that success in his MLS form.
for sure. And it's been fun to see him get minutes with Canada. You'd like to see him get more as he builds into that team. And that's an exciting team to watch, an exciting team to see grow over the last handful of years. And it'll be interesting to see what Jesse Marsch can do with them. Now that he's got his first win under his belt, now that he's done facing the top 4 teams in the world, it seems, his first 3 matches. He's able to kind of get his feet under him. Looking back at the week in MLS, a couple of notable results. Manny, you kind of mentioned this one or kind of hinted at this one. LAFC 6, San Jose 2 ends up with Luchi Gonzalez parting ways with San Jose parting ways with Luchi Gonzalez. A big result for LAFC as they continue just to be a horse in a wagon as this season goes along, and they're on a ridiculous streak of not losing games, and it's incredible what they've been able to turn around and do, Manny.
Yeah, I mean, I think about the game we had here against them, how well we won comprehensively, and they really struggled, I thought, particularly defensively, to deal with us and to create any kind of chances. And since that game, and we felt a little bit when we went there, they've had an outstanding defensive effort, and it's shown. And then they've gotten great value and minutes out of probably right now the best player in the league, pound for pound, if Messi's not here. Denny Bouanga. Bogusz is a young and up and coming stud as well. So just they really are playing really, really well. So it'll be interesting to see with the transfer window now if the addition of such a big time superstar number 9 will elevate them even more. But I throw caution because this is an awesome sport. It's a team sport. I got somebody on the podcast today that has shown the value of leadership and teamness in so many ways, and on the field, off the field, years as a starter to make sure he makes everybody better. And so I'm fascinated. Giroud is not like a slam dunk, particularly when you add a piece to the team that's playing like this. You never know. I mean, they might lose something. So on paper, it looks like they're going to continue to get stronger and stronger, but you never know.
And look, they've got Kai Kamara scoring again at the age of 57 at this point. And he's just stuck around, and now he's surpassed Landon Donovan in the goal scoring charts. Kai Kamara is one of the most incredible stories in this league's history, Zarek.
Yeah, he's a journeyman. He's been around the league. He's shown that he's able to score pretty much everywhere he goes. And kudos to Kai, pretty much passing Landon in the most Kai way with a back post header. Happy for him. And as speaking to Manny's point, LAFC's in a good way. It'll be interesting to see how the additions happen. Obviously, I know Lucci a little bit, so I'm upset to see him let go. Awesome guy. And even at staff with I believe Wando's on the staff and Aiden. It's never easy, those situations. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see LAFC moving forward and how they how they add such a big piece, a big personality. And again, with the current form and how they're playing, I'm not upset that we've already played them twice. So we can check that one off the list.
That's totally fair. I mean, that is one of the benefits of playing them early and just getting them out of the way, because they've now gone on this streak and now you don't have to worry about them until the playoffs. Another notable result, Seattle 3, Dallas 2, Jordan Morris scoring in the 4th minute of second half stoppage time. Another incredible result for Seattle, this time at home against a Dallas side that looks to have kind of found their form under interim management, but Seattle now 3 matches on the trot unbeaten. Impressive result for them, impressive fight, and Jordan Morris doing what he does, scoring late and daggering a team late, Zarek.
Yeah, that was they were down 2-0 in the second half, I believe in the 60 something minute. And then Seattle always has an opportunity to score at home. It's one of the toughest places to play. And yeah, they've always had the quality of players. And when we spoke about that, that was never a doubt with Rusnak and Morris, and you know, 2 center backs are playing well, and João Paulo, and they always had the quality. They just weren't putting together consistent performances. But they've seemed to have done that recently. And you know, it's always going to be a tough place to play, but you know, kudos to them. That was a pretty wild game. I think Dallas, like I said, Dallas, I think went up 2-0 in the 65th minute. And then Jordan scored a very late winner off a great pass. So yeah, that was a wild result, but such is MLS after dark most times.
Just because the Loons are away doesn't mean you have to watch the match from home. With Loons Watch Spots presented by Coors Light, you can find a piece of that Allianz Field atmosphere at some of your favorite Twin Cities locations. Check out the full list of locations and upcoming watch parties at MNUFC.com/Loons Watch Spots. And we'll get a taste of that hopefully this weekend. Minnesota United, Portland, 9:30 kickoff. We'll preview that match in a little bit. Let's jump right into the other interesting result for Loons fans from the weekend. Minnesota United, Austin. The 1-0 win for Austin at the weekend. Let's just start off. General thoughts from the match, Manny. We don't need to go into too specific of details. We'll jump into all the red card, the red card conversation and everything around that. But let's just get your general thoughts on the loss this weekend, Manny.
Yeah, I'll try not to, but you got to start. I just couldn't believe the refereeing, 2 yellow cards in 60 seconds. And just like, I got too much gray hair to see the players going at the ref after a lot of calls early and kind of just getting in his ear. And so I'll quickly, just my recap is just like, that changes the game, and it's just not the right call at the right time, the right place. So it really changed the game, and I thought it was going to change the game in a way that was going to be completely just like, oh, this is going to be one of those games Austin have the ball, and we're just going to have to like kind of figure out how to get 1 or 2 chances each half. And it turned out different, and this is why I love the sport. This is why I love soccer. This is why I love that every game is different. The game became bigger than I could even ever realize in that second half. And the connection I thought the players and the fans had leaving Allianz Field, leaving the stadium, was actually one of my top moments at that stadium, because it's very rare that your team's going to lose a game and you feel like the fans and the players were connected and united they were. And again, that's a credit to the output of the players in that second half and the energy and just the belief in every little play. And then it's a credit to the Minnesota fans, our fans, which continually surprise me with their knowledge of the game and their need to kind of get our players going by every single play meant something that second half, even if it was the throw in or was a tackle to stop a counter. They were all in. And so to me, again, it was weirdly a really special night and a tough loss. And ultimately I'll end with, we create a little bit of our own bad luck too. That our start to the game was not as sharp as we needed to be to maybe not foul as much, to put ourselves in a position where the referee had to make that call.
There.
I think Manny made a lot of great points in which I'll touch on. in terms of the refereeing, I need to choose my words carefully.
That's
I
fair.
would say
That you are in the league, and yeah, there's some issues there.
I would just say there was a lot of yellow cards very early in the game, which I think put the referee in a very difficult spot for a few of the calls. I disagree with the decision, and I think it does change the game. Sadly, as Manny said, there's no other way about it, right? But I will say, as a teammate, I've been on a lot of teams, played a lot of years. You know, I've been very fortunate in that sense. I don't think I've really been prouder of a group of guys in a bad result than that one. You know, we played down a man for almost 70 minutes, and the fight, the effort, the team spirit. You know, these are kind of cliche buzzwords at times, but to see my teammates physically collapsing after the game because of the effort and the amount of running, and even I think in the second half, in my opinion, until they had a few injuries and they made a few subs, there we had the better of the play, and we were threatening them a lot. And that's a credit to all my teammates and the effort and the just sheer desire to go out there and to work together and to put in a performance. And the last point I'll make is touching on Manny's point about the fans. You know, I've played in a few places, you know, where we've had great fans, but I've played in very few, if not any, where the fans directly, you can feel the energy from the fans, almost like, you know, Sunny's on hot cement, where you can see the aura, and they're pushing the players, and they're feeding off the energy. And that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen in Houston. That doesn't happen in, you know, a lot of MLS teams. I'm not going to, you know, call them out, but
Yeah, one of the things, Zarek, I always say that I still, and I'm trying to be honest. I think Austin and LSU are louder. I think they're a little bit more consistently cheering the whole game. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I do think the fans here surprise me in that they cheer the game in the moments that sometimes I think you guys need to hear to get going, or to
yeah,
like acknowledge your effort, or sometimes to acknowledge they're going to be quiet because you guys are playing not great, you know,
yeah.
and you're the silence sometimes says everything in a game. So I think you're right. I just wanted to exasperate that too. Like, there are places that are louder and they have their own different identity. The identity of our fans is really something special, really is. And it's great to hear you say that, Zarek.
Yeah, and as a Philadelphia fan, I'm okay with that. We booed Santa Claus. So, so I'm completely okay with that. And it actually speaks volumes to the, as you were saying, the knowledge, right? And again, with that game, there was a different vibe because the fans were almost willing the players in a tough moment. Which was awesome, right? You know, Sangban's getting end line a few times, and you know, we had them on the back foot for a majority of that second half. And obviously they changed it. And, you know, towards the end of the game, you could just see the gas was running out of the guys. And, you know, that's understandable playing down so long. But, you know, that was one of the few games where you could see the fans were giving their all, trying to physically and emotionally give their energy to the players. And again, you know, it was a tough result. And as Manny said, the start of the game wasn't great, but, I think more often than not, if we can play in that same energy and team spirit with 11 men, I think we'll get a lot more positive results than negative. But we do have to go back and learn from mistakes, defensively and, you know, tactically. That's always number one. You got to introspectively look at yourself and how you could have done better and how the team could have done better. But there's definitely still some really good positive moments I think we can take from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, the brightest spot was that fight in after going down a man. I think that fight from the squad was really impressive. And as you guys have alluded to, during the second half, it felt like the Loons were significantly the better team for a large portion of it and played better soccer for a large portion of it, and were putting a ton of pressure on Austin. And it just felt like there was one more push and the goal was going to go in, but that one more push never came because just the amount of energy and will that was exerted kind of sapped the team. And you could see it very, very easily. You could see it very notably on the players after I think probably the second half substitution started to come in, that the energy kind of went down a little bit, and they're just it felt like they were very gassed after putting in an incredible effort over a good chunk of that match to try and level the match after Diego Rubio's goal in the 31st minute. So let's jump into the kind of nitty gritty here. Zarek, you mentioned learning from the mistakes. What were some of the big things outside of obviously not getting 2 yellow cards in the span of 60 minutes that the team is working on coming out of that match?
I think first and foremost, the last thing I'll touch upon in terms of the effort was that was also the third game in a week.
Yeah,
So a lot of those guys had
Well,
logged a lot of minutes.
that's true. Yeah.
And still,
I think that she cannot be understated, Derek. Like that was traveling to Dallas and then playing at home, third game in a week. Really, yeah. That I like how you talked about the players literally collapsing at the end of the game because they had to not only have the output of that day, but their bodies had to do with the output of 3 games in a week. Such a great point.
Yeah. I would say it was an interesting battle in terms of tactically for me because you could clearly tell Austin was there, playing a back 4 and we played a back 5, that they were telling their outside backs to stay very low, to basically create a moment of doubt with our wing backs. And I think that at times, as an outside back, as a wing back, you need to be very cautious in terms of how far you step out because it's a long run, right? So if the outside back for Austin, right or left side, is very almost in line creating a flat 4, the wing back then on our team would have to step out potentially an extra 10, 15 yards to get into those spaces. So it's interesting to kind of see that cat and mouse that of the outsides. And I think in general, something that we've been working on and we need to work on, I think we need to be a little bit cleaner on the ball in terms of possession, right? An easy way to rest is to rest on the ball. And I think that at times we haven't been as clean as we would like to be in possession. And I think that that's going to continually be a topic where if we can be a little bit sharper in these moments and to rest on the ball, it will give us even more time to be aggressive when we don't have it. So for me, I'd like to see us be a little bit calmer on the ball, and that's always easier said than done because there's moments in which you want to speed the game up, in which you're being pressed, in which you're tired. But I think if we can continue to do that and push a little bit more, we will put ourselves in a better spot to then have the energy to be even more proactive defensively.
Yeah, it felt like you kind of mentioned something that I mentioned to Manny after the game, that kind of hesitancy from the fullbacks, the wingbacks to get forward, and that probably being played into being led by Austin playing deep. And it felt like there was a couple times there where Bongi was on the ball on the right-hand side and he was just kind of waving DJ Taylor forward, but you could see DJ, whether it was coming back from an injury, playing a couple games in a short span of time, not wanting to go too far forward because he knew that left space in the back. And I think for me, just I don't want to say lack of width, but just the inability at times to get that width might have hurt the team a little bit in the attacking stances later on in that match. And I think that was an interesting note. I like that note that Austin kind of forcing them to make that or have that question in their minds of whether they want to step out forward and whether they want to go out that extra 10, 15 yards kind of led to some hesitancy and allowed Austin to get the ball back in times where normally the Loons would play it out wide and they wouldn't allow the other team to get the ball back. Manny, what was the biggest change for you after the Loons went down a man tactically wise for the Loons? What did they change differently to stay in this one?
Yeah, I think it oddly enough, it just simplified roles and it simplified our press. Again, I alluded to before. I think we didn't start on the front foot in that game. I thought Austin did a good job of playing out too easily. Essentially, we started fouling early. So for me, the game got simplified for the group, and I think Zarek made a great tactical point in terms of how are you going to press out of a 3-4-3 or 5-4-1 or whatever you want to call it against a back 4. And ultimately, we didn't do a good job early of pressing up into that, and they easily got out, and we had to do a lot of running early. And I think in a weird way, the red card led to us playing a little more like a 4-4-1, where we now could have our wide guys press. And they knew their responsibilities a little bit more. But ultimately, that the point that Zarek made about individually and collectively, how important all of that is. And then to do that, I'm convinced we win that game if we don't get the red card. Because I could see in real time the guys starting to understand how they were going to start to work on their press and go into it. And so ultimately for me, it was a big moment in the game. So, and then obviously I think Clinton would want to have them back. It's a game of little moments too that you've got this great veteran goalie that never usually makes mistakes. Next thing you know, he makes a mistake right after a red card that he rarely does. So ultimately for me, like I said, I talked about the big picture stuff. Those are the little moments that change games, and we couldn't quite fight back from it.
Some standout performances from that one, despite the loss. You look at Songbin Jung, I think he was one of the biggest standouts outside of maybe Josef Rosales as well. Another great performance at that left wing back role, but Songbin Jung up top by himself for most of the night, pressing, running at the opponent, running at the defense. His work rate is almost second to none on this team, Zarek. It is incredible what he's able to do over the stretch of a 90 minutes and being able to just put the pressure on the defense, the opposition defense, as they're trying to play with the ball out of the back. He's just, everybody knows his speed is there, but it kind of sneaks up on you how fast he is.
Well, it doesn't sneak up on me, I'll tell you that much.
It sneaks up on the opposition who see it on tape, but I guess speed in real time versus speed on tape is very different.
Yeah, you'll never be able to question his work rate and his energy. And I think the past game was a true display of just, there was one defensive run he did in the second half, late in the second half, where he went back and forth, I think twice. He ran past guys. And as a coach, Manny can speak to this. I mean, having someone that's willing to do the dirty work, right? I'm sure if you ask him, would you rather work defensively or score goals? He would say score goals, and he's still doing the defensive work, right? And that's always there. That's his bare minimum. And it's awesome to see. He's extremely selfless of a player in terms of what he provides. And we always say, I'm a defender, but defending starts at the front. And, to have someone like that on your team is invaluable. And you also mentioned Joe, who, is having a fantastic year, and it's awesome to see his progression, confidence wise. And we've always known Joe as a good player, and now he's really grown into a role and been in a spot where, he's really been succeeding. So it's great to see. And again, it's credit to the guys for being in a really tough situation. As Manny alluded to, I know Clint would like to have, that one back, and he's the first to put his hand up. He's extremely experienced guy and knows what he needs to do. And, knowing him, he'll go back and, make whatever changes mentally or whatever he needs to do. And, again, he's shown there's a reason he's been doing this for so long. And, his reliability. So, that's not any doubt from the players in that sense. Clint's awesome. And, again, it's just been, there's positives to take for sure from the game. And, Sangbin was, he was the first one I saw fall. And he was sitting there, and you could see he was sitting there and gassed, but he just wanted to help the team win in whatever way and provide that energy and that spark, and had a few chances, to do so. So I was proud of him. And, I knew we would get that, but that was for me a special engine moment where I was sitting there going, this guy's on a different level.
Yeah, he's been incredible. Another guy we did mention, Josef Rosales, another strong performance at left wing back. Once again, just being that defensive stalwart and then adding into the attack. He's been incredible, Manny, this season. Just continues to put in performance after performance after performance this season.
Outstanding, high quality, high class. I have nothing. I can't say much more. I mean, Zarek said it all. Great kid. His progression has been unbelievable. His confidence, his ability to create moments. He's probably one of our best players at running by guys with the ball now, moving the ball. So ultimately, really good. Guys, I do have to be a little careful here because I love having Z on, and I love the our positive vibe because we need it. But my brain is also like, I've got to make sure we have the podcast here. We lost 3 games in a week this week, and I kind of said we create our own bad luck a little bit. 2 of those 3 games I thought we played really, really well and still lost. And in one game we gave up 5 goals. This one we got an early goal and a red card. So ultimately it was a tough week for the group. And we dropped 3 straight games for the first time this year. So I think we're all kind of talking about the positives are there, but it's also been the adversity of the international break. I've already lamented about MLS rules have to change. I've lamented that we've shown and dealt with a ton of adversity really well this year. This is the first week where we didn't quite do it. The positives, I still think we look good, and we got a chance to do it in Portland. And I bring that back. Josef has been one of those guys that has really fought and battled consistently all year. So, but I also have to be careful on our podcast. You know, it's the first time I'm having feelings of like, we lost 3 games this week. Are we for real? Did we really do that? Because we didn't deserve to, but we did. And you know, we got to go to Portland now and hopefully stop that bleeding a little bit.
Yeah, three losses in a row for sure. It's disappointing. But as you said, 2 of those games, it felt like this team was the better team and probably didn't deserve to lose. And you look back at this stretch, it's now just 1 win in the last 6 games. That's a really tough stretch. You can pile on the circumstances and the outside influences on those games as much you like, but the results are still the results. Zarek, what's the key to turning this around? I mean, it's, as I said, 1 win in the last 6 games. A couple of those results, I think you look at, I think there's only 2 of those results you look at and you're like, yeah, team wasn't really in those games. But for the most part, it's felt like this team has just kind of been battling week in and week out, just not getting the results. What's the key to turning this around?
I think acknowledging it wasn't a good week, right? I think Manny's completely spot on with that. It's okay, right? You know, we're both really positive guys, and we always want to look at the you know the bright side of things. But at the end of the day, this is professional sports, and we want to get results, and we did not do that. You know, we ultimately, you know, for one reason or another, came back from 1 week and had 3 difficult results, which is not easy, you know, an easy thing to swallow. But I've always said that in tough moments, I think going back to the basics is a really good thing to do. And as a player, for example, as a defender, you know, you talk about pressure cover balance, being aggressive, you know, make sure you're closing down in the right spaces. So for me, reinforcing these ideas is something that might seem monotonous at times, but at the end of the day, as Manny said, when you give up 5 goals, you need to be introspective about that. You know, no one's happy about that. So you have to go back and say, hey, how can we get better at this? You know, the team, this is our bread and butter. This is what our identity is. Let's go back and practice those things. And ultimately, I think that having a full week to mentally digest everything and physically recover legs that we need to do is really good. But again, for me, always getting back to the basics and reinforcing who we are, what our principles are, and then giving that full week will allow us to be as best prepared, again, for another difficult game away from home as possible.
Well said, Z. Well said. I agree. I like the idea of making sure you're thinking about doing the little things well individually and collectively. I think that's so important. And it, you know, will be tested this weekend because obviously it's a tough environment to go play.
That kind of transitions us right into this weekend's game. Portland Timbers in Portland. The last time these 2 teams played, it was a 2-1 win for Minnesota back in the middle of May. That's the last time Portland has lost. They just have 1 loss in the last 8 matches. It's been an incredible run for them. They have continued to just score a ton of goals. They're one of the highest scoring teams in the Western Conference. They've also continued to ship a ton of goals as well, though that seems in the past 3 or 4 matches, they've kind of started to figure out the defensive side of the ball, only allowing 3 goals in their last 5 games. It's a pretty good run for their defense that has been shaky at times this season. This is going to be a tough one for sure, Manny. What's the key to the match for the Loons this weekend?
I think it is going to be dealing with Evander, dealing with Jonathan Rodriguez, and probably dealing with just the leadership of Chara and the shenanigans of Chara. So those are probably the 3 big ones for me. And I think that lends well because that means we have to be good in the midfield. Let's win the midfield battle. Let's be really solid with our back 3. And let's try to see if we play at the back 3. I don't know for sure if we're going to, but if we do, and let's see if we can now, kind of really just be organized and compact and go into a game that we're going to give up a few chances and we're going to create chances. So for me, it's really dealing with their offensive weapons. I think they tend to open up pretty quickly once you do that.
And Zarek, you know this place better than probably any other Loons player after playing there from 2016 to 2019. This is.
Hey, can we say that about every stadium for Zarek, or is that just
He's not Kai Kamara. He hasn't played for every single team.
Yeah, I get a piggyback off Manny's take is, Vander's been Evander and Rodriguez have been hot out of recently. Evander obviously plays in the middle of the field as a 10, one of the more creative 10s. Someone who very good on the ball, can pick out pretty much any pass, but is also a defensive liability because he's just, a little bit lazy, which is fine. That's their give and take that you have with sometimes with a very talented player. So constantly being aware of where he is, even when we have the ball, right? Defensive shape, because they break very quickly. And Timbers have pretty much had a very similar recipe of, defending in a 4-4-2, kind of trying to lull teams to sleep at times, and then having creative players to, to try to create chances from there. And they've been scoring a lot. So again, when it comes back to the foundation, being defensively sound, being in good spots, getting in very good early starting spots, so you're not having to recover and kind of play against the grain in that sense. So I think defensively is where where it's important to start, and then we're going to get chances, and it's just a matter of being clinical in those and putting those away. It's going to be a fun game. It's a fun place to play. Two good teams, Timbers are in good form, so it'll be exciting. What more could you want as a player in a good environment against a good team? It's tough to beat that.
Absolutely. And you guys have mentioned Evander a couple times. 8 goals, 10 assists this season. He's really come to life this season. What he had 9 goals, 4 assists or something like that last season. He was good for them last season, but he's kind of stepped it up another level. I know there are some in Portland that are putting him not necessarily in the MVP conversation, but kind of like on the exterior of that, kind of pushing his way in if Portland can keep their good run of form going. But he's one of the most dynamic players. Jonathan Rodriguez, who was an early season signing for them, has gotten going, 3 goals, 1 assist in the last 5 games. They've been incredible in the attack, but that defense kind of leaves things to be desired for Portland for sure. And it'll be a very interesting one to watch. As I was going to say and ask you, Zarek, what's the key for opposition going into Portland, one of the loudest stadiums? It feels like everything's right on top of you with that stadium. What's the key for opposition to kind of just keep their cool and not let the atmosphere get to them?
Manny touched on it previously. It's a good start, right? The first 10, 15 minutes, you got to start well. You don't want to pretty much, I imagine teams probably have the same opinion when they come to our stadium, right? You don't want to get the crowd in it. You got to try to maybe play a little bit direct, take the sting out of the game. But when you go to difficult places, and Allianz is one of those places, teams will try to slow the game down. You can't do the injury stuff anymore with the new rules, but in terms of set pieces, goal kicks, you see, how many times are we looking at Stuver, because Stuver's putting his hand up, he's tying his shoes. Steve Clark took his gloves off at one point to try to take this thing out of the game. So I think a good start for me is crucial for getting the team in a position to get a result.
For sure. And Minnesota had actually a fair bit of success in Portland over the years. A couple of wins, couple of big wins as well. I think the last time they went there, it was a 1-0 win for Minnesota, for the club. So this isn't a place that the Loons are obviously unfamiliar with. So it'll be an interesting one to come out of this one. They've also had their absences due to international call-ups. And I know their head coach, Phil Neville, has mentioned it a couple of times in his displeasure with it, but they've gotten performances, notably out of goalkeeper James Pantemis, who's been terrific recently in Maxime Crépeau's absence. What's the scouting report on this kid, Manny?
Oh, I mean, it's just big, young, lot of potential. He's got. I think anytime you have an opportunity in this league, you take it, and when you're a goalie, I think it's even bigger. So ultimately, I think he's doing a great job of just taking that opportunity. So, and I think it's interesting because Crépeau's playing really well as well. It's not just yeah, him playing well and Crépeau's gone. So I think you're right though. I think it's important we attack well, we take our chances well, because ultimately, they are a little bit depleted in those areas.
Absolutely. So before we move on to the final segment of the show, final thoughts on this one, final thoughts on this match coming up Saturday night, 9:30 p.m. kickoff. Watch that on MLS Season Pass. Tune in to the radio broadcast with Dan Terrar and myself, 9 p.m. pre-match show on Score North, AM 1500, and the Score North mobile app. Zarek, your final thoughts on this match coming up for the Loons this weekend against Portland?
I'm excited to see the response from the boys. It was a tough week. No denying that, but we've had some good sessions this week. We had some puppies out at training. I think that it's been good for the boys to re-energize mentally, physically, emotionally. And I'm excited to see us out there. Again, it's a fun place to play. It's a fast place because it's obviously on turf. But yeah, I'm excited for the guys, and I know that the game cannot come fast enough. When you have disappointing results as a player, you want to play. The game could be in 2 hours, and the boys would get up for it today. So I'm excited to see the response from our guys, and hopefully we can put in a performance to get a result.
Manny?
Yeah, organized and compact. Actually win the midfield battles, which I think we can do. And deal with their heavy hitters, particularly Rodriguez right now and Evander. And I think things open up for us.
Absolutely. That one, cannot wait for that one. As you guys said, moving on now, final segment, looking ahead at some other games across the soccer slate. US Panama tonight, 5 p.m. kickoff for that one. Expectations for this one, boys. I'll start with you, Manny, since you're the one wearing the USA gear.
Yeah, I think 4-1, but I don't think as easy as Bolivia. Like, again, as much as I loved how we played, and by the way, I thought Pulisic was outstanding in that game. It was one of the best games, and I think he's been one of the best performers in the entire tournament so far. But I also don't know if Bolivia would beat an MLS team, if I'm being honest, just from that roster that all of them play in Bolivia. Nobody's outside of Bolivia. I think that's just it. Like, I think we got to step on the field the way Zarek talked about, that fight and hunger and battle. And I think we should be fine with that one. So 4-1 USA.
Zarek? By the way, Zarek, we rarely get score predictions from Manny. He usually gives us just the result. He's rarely willing to dive into the scores.
Yeah, I think it's more just Z's on the hair. We're just chatting nicely. So I got excited. I get a little bit excited. It's game day,
Hopefully that one is Carlos Harvey. Let's just say that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll say 3-0. I think there's too much quality in the US side. It's just a matter of starting well, and again, having a good start and having that fight to be up for the battle. I think Christian's going to get kicked a lot. My shout out PA Classics, Pennsylvania guy. I think he's going to get kicked a lot. So you have to protect your better players, and Manny knows that, right? The enforcers, the Westons or whatever on the team have to then. I think, Panama's best player is Coco, who plays in Houston, Carrasquilla. So, you got to protect your guys. And if they're up for the fight, when the football breaks out, I think we have too much quality. It's just a matter of, again, being clinical in those important moments.
Yeah, I don't want to be complacent either, Z. I think this Panama team is better than the Bolivian team. So I don't think it's going to be an easier game on paper. I just expect a lot after, kind of a couple really good results now. And it feels like the group is really kind of solidifying. And this will get us through.
Yeah.
If we win tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. So now we jump into our MLS predictions. We don't need to do score lines. There's nothing on the line here. We usually just do results here. Manny, we've got another round of Friday night soccer, and you can't really argue against it. It seems like it's always New York City doing the Friday night soccer. I don't know what's up with the scheduling gods in that one, but New York City, Orlando, this one obviously in New York. What's our prediction here, Manny?
I'm going to go Orlando based on their big kind of win last week and a big surprise. I think Torres is going to continue to kind of absorb not playing in Copa America and have a good game.
He had a heck of a goal against Chicago that I think was probably the goal of the week. Didn't win it, but his goal deserved to be mentioned as well in the goal of the week. Zarek, your thoughts on this one?
I will go actually New York. They've won 2 in a row. And Galace's not there. So I will take New York.
Yeah, I think I'm taking New York here because every time we get Friday night soccer and it's at New York, it always delivers. And it just seems like New York know how to put on a performance on a baseball field. And I think they'll do it again this Friday. Other games across Major League Soccer that we'll be keeping our eye on this weekend. LAFC Colorado. What are we thinking here? This one at LAFC, as we mentioned, they're on a heck of a run. Colorado, kind of in the middle of the conference. Zarek, your thoughts?
This is a tough one. I know Colorado's missing their center back, but they've been doing quite well of recently. Actually, no, sorry, they've lost 2 in a row, but they were on a pretty good form. But I mean, it's tough to bet against LAFC with the way they're playing right now. I think they've won 4 straight, something like that. It's going to be tough to bet against them at home.
Manny?
Yeah, I'm with Z. LAFC. End of story.
Yeah, that one's kind of. I I think that one's definitely LAFC as well. And then the other one, Manny, you'll be at this one. San Jose, LA Galaxy. I'm going to put you in the tough spot. Who's going to win this one?
I mean, I've got to, at least for this weekend, being flown out there. I think you got to go with the coach's bump. San Jose 2-1.
All right.
Sorry, supposed to get scores. No scores. Sorry, San Jose.
I'm actually I'm with you on this one. Typically in the Cali Classico games, those are special, and I think sometimes when they go through a change, we saw with Dallas where there's almost the players are fighting for jobs again, and there might be a little bit of an odd reinvigoration in a certain way. I'll take San Jose because they've been doing pretty well in these Cali Classico games, and Manny's going to be there, so he's going to bring a little extra juju. But we might need that a little bit. So I'm with him on this one.
I think the new coach bump helps San Jose in this one, a home win for them against LA Galaxy. And I like players getting chippy on media, like we saw Ricky Pooch do this week, and kind of post the receipts of the early season or the preseason predictions from a lot of MLS insiders and where LA Galaxy would finish. But also that's a team that finished 13th last year, so it's no surprise they weren't expected to do well. And I think it's weird when I get players being chippy and saying you didn't expect much of us, but you're also 13th last year. So, I mean, who's to blame for not being predicted to be top of the West or near the top of the Western Conference at this point of the season? So I think San Jose is going to win this one, but it'll be another interesting weekend of Major League Soccer, as well as, I guess, international soccer as well, between the Euros starting the round of 16 on Saturday, going into Copa America. It's a soccer fan's dream.
You wake up, watch soccer,
It's the
then
best.
you got Copa America and you got MLS on the weekends. It's amazing. It's best month right now ever.
It's glorious for sure. But yeah, tune into that one. Tune into Minnesota, Portland, 9:30 p.m. kickoff on MLS Season Pass, 9 p.m. pre-match show with Dan Terra and myself on 1500 ESPN and the Score North mobile app. Looking forward to it, Loons fans. Manny, Zarek, thanks for joining this week, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Bye, guys.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Loons fans. We'll talk to you next week.